Hey everyone, I'm Christelle Soto-Suarez and I call myself a self-leadership awakener. And that's because I'm all about the leadership of ourselves that we all have within us, but that so often has been pushed on by life. And my mission is to inspire, support, and empower middle managers who feel stuck or unseen in life and at work, and to help them to take small but meaningful step forward toward that better life, better career that all of us dream of, and to do that without overwhelm. And if you want to know more about me, feel free to check my LinkedIn profile or to check out my website. Now, I recently did a short coaching-infused conversation with a circle of professional women about the word fail. And I thought I would share it with you here today. So obviously, the real value of a conversation is to actively reflect during the conversation, to share your own thoughts, and to listen to what others say. And that's how you get unexpected insight and light bulb moment. So for today, I'll ask you to just imagine you're in that friendly circle. And today what I'm doing, it's really like a free food sample. It's for you to get a taste of what my signature coaching infused conversations are. And that means that it's a conversation, not a lecture. I'm guiding the conversation, of course, and I share my own experience. And then I invite you, the attendees, to share your own thoughts. Obviously, you only share whatever you want to share, and you don't have to share the details. And it's also to create a space to pause, to reflect, and to look at challenges from a different perspective. And the goal is to leave the conversation with one action, but an action that is doable, that is right for you, and that you can do right away, or at least start to do right away, so that you get moving on your goal. Okay, so let's start by setting the scene of this conversation. And I'll ask you to imagine that you're taking a break with your friends. You might have one of your favorite drinks at hand, and you're talking about life, about work, about what it's like, about what you would like it to be like instead. And today's conversation is about that word that so many of us dread, I think, the word fail. And you wonder what your life would be like if that word fail wasn't such a symbol of failure. Okay, so let's start the conversation. And let's start with thinking back of a fail that we had recently. And when I say a fail, I'm not talking about anything traumatic, because I am absolutely not equipped to help you with that. So a more standard fail, a meeting that didn't go as planned, something we're expecting to achieve and we didn't, etc. So think of a fail you recently had. I'm going to share mine so that I can use it as an example throughout the conversation. And mine is, interestingly enough, is about trying to do my first LinkedIn Live and failing at it. So that's my example for today's conversation. Okay, so you've got that fail in mind. Now I'll ask you to think about how you felt at the time. Again, if you felt anything that was really, really deep and harmful, do not go there. This is not the right space for that. So for me, if I go back to that moment when I failed at my first LinkedIn Live, how did I feel? I felt shame of having to cancel the last minute. And that's not what a professional person, somebody who knows what they do, is supposed to do. I also felt stupid that I hadn't realized that I needed another platform, a streaming platform, to actually do a LinkedIn Live. So that's the two main feeling I had at the time. Now, how about you? When you think back at that fail that you recently had, how did you feel? Make a note of that. Okay. Now, imagine this fail actually happened to somebody else, to a best friend, to a young intern that is working at your company, to somebody you care about? What would you tell them to help them look at that fail as a learning rather than as a failure? So, for example, for me, if I had, let's say, my best friend had tried to do her first LinkedIn Live and had to cancel it at the last moment, I would tell her things like, you know what, your instinct told you something because you went and check up on how it would really work, how it was all supposed to work. And that's when you realize you were missing the streaming platform. So you were able to cancel, to give notice to people, not just cancel at the start time, but a few hours before. And no one criticized you for that. So, you did well there. Also, I would tell her, you know what, it is not that easy, that obvious when you're not in that field to realize that you needed a streaming platform. So you've learned something there, and now you can do the research to do it better next time. And I would also tell her that she had actually prepared for it. So she was all ready to go to speak live, which for many people is a big thing. So that was a great learning too. She's ready on that side. So those are some of the few things I would tell her. Now think back, what would you tell your best friend, a young intern, somebody you care, if they had the same fail that you were thinking of at the beginning of this conversation? What would you tell them? Take a moment, whatever comes to your mind. Write it down if you want. That would be great. Now, when you're telling them that, what would you like them to feel? Do you want them to feel supported, motivated, inspired to keep going? Those type of feelings. So for me, I would like my friend to feel that it's okay not to succeed the first time. It's actually pretty normal. It's part of the learning process. I would like her to feel that she's learning, as I just said, part of the learning process. You learn one thing at a time. And I would like her to feel that she will do better next time because she's learned. Again, all around that learning, in my case, yours might be different. When you're speaking to that best friend or young intern or anybody else you have in mind, how do you want them, how would you like them to feel when you're speaking to them about looking at the event as a learning rather than as a failure? And maybe write them down because that could be very useful for you too. Okay. Now, let's come back to you and your situation, your present situation with that fail event. What can you do to tell yourself those same messages that you just told your best friend, the young intern, that person you care about? What can you do to tell yourself those same messages? So if I look at my own situation, what can I do? I could take a moment to reflect after a fail and try to look at it objectively. I could set what I call mindset reminders around myself, ways to remind myself that a fail means what I want it to mean, not failure. I could also think of how my coach would speak to me. And if she's listening, I'm sure she will love that. So those are some of the things I can do to tell myself the messages that I happily, easily tell a friend in the same situation. So how about you? What can you do to tell yourself those same messages? And whatever comes to your mind, even if it seems a bit odd, it doesn't matter. Right now, the goal really is to get you to think differently. So make a note of whatever comes up. Now, out of those different ways or things you can do, pick one that you can do right now, or at least that you can start to do right now. So this is probably going to be something quite small, something that is not too difficult, maybe stretch you a little bit, but not so much. So it's not scary to do. So for example, for me, I could do, after I finish this recording, for example, I could take a 20-minute coffee break and research some quotes about the mindset around fail and to see it as a first attempt in learning. And that's because I like to have quotes around me to help me with setting the right mindset. So that's how I work. So if you think of your own situation, what can you do right now? What's one action you can do either right now or today or maybe tomorrow, but not something you want to wait next week to do or you need some research to do. No, something you can do right away. Okay. Now imagine you're taking that one action and then you take another one and another one and you keep going, and you get to the end of the year and you somehow change your mindset about fail and you're seeing more as a learning experience than as a failure. How do you feel about that mindset shift? What's changing in your life, maybe because you're looking at fail from a different perspective? But let's be realistic. What's most likely to happen right now? Well, you will go back to life, and life will probably take over again. And that means that you're unlikely to take that one action you just identified, and even less unlikely to take more actions after that. So you get to the end of the year and you haven't changed your perspective on a fail event. How do you feel about it? How does it compare to the version where you're taking action? And now, which of those two versions do you prefer? And there's no right or wrong answer. This is your choice, of course. But if you prefer the version where you are taking action, how can you increase your odds of success? Well, you can do that with accountability. So you can get an accountability partner like a colleague, a friend, or a coach, of course. And speaking of coach, you can give me a call and I will put that in the comment just after. And we can see how we could potentially work together or how I could do this type of conversation for you and your colleagues. But if you're not ready to speak to me, not yet, at least, you can also just check my upcoming events and see if there's anything of interest to you and actively participate in one of those conversations. So let me put that in the chat now. Sorry, in the comment section. Okay. And before we conclude this conversation, I would like you to take a moment to think about what you got out of this conversation. What are you taking away? How do you feel about the word fail now? And how do you feel about that one action you decided to take? So thank you very much for listening to me. I do hope you've done the reflection at the same time and that you have decided on one action and that you will take that one action. And I also hope to see you at some of my other events. So thank you very much. Have a good day or a good evening, depending when you're watching this recording. Thank you.